Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today's actually going to be more of a technical video, and what I'm going to be showing you today is actually how to modify your synthesizers.com Q117 sample and hold module with a kind of a cool modification I came up with. This is something that may be useful for some of you guys out there with a modular synth that uses this module. What the modification is going to do for you is it's going to give you keyed auto triggering. And when you're in the internal mode, what typically happens is your gate right here becomes an output, and so it'll actually trigger your envelopes off the rate of your LFO of your sample rate here. And so it'll just sit there and trigger your envelopes. You have really no control over that. Well, this modification will allow you to actually plug the gate in with, for example, a Q174 MIDI to CV controller, and it'll actually give you an auto triggering when you're internal off the key of the keyboard. So when you receive a gate signal from the Q174, for example, it'll actually put this thing in auto trigger run. When you release the key, it'll stop, so you don't have auto triggering all the time. So it'll be a keyed auto trigger circuit. It's pretty simple to do. There's some different ways to come about doing this. I'm going to show you a real simple way to do it first, and I'll show you some more complex ways of doing it with some more options if you desire to have more options here. But anyways, let's get started here. Okay, so we're now looking at the back of this module, and what you want to do first is just label your connectors so you know where they all go. Now, synthesizer.com does have a layout that you can go to their data sheet if you mess up on this part of it. But I just find it's easier just to go and label them instead of that way you don't accidentally mess up here. But you'll label your connectors here and then unplug all of them. Then you'll remove your screws. You'll need a number 1 Phillips head screwdriver to remove these screws here. And just for reference of orientation, this is your power connector down here. So I've labeled my connectors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's my layout of this board as well. I've labeled them as. And so what you'll do first is just unplug all those after you label them. So we'll just unplug all these things. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull the circuit board, and you got to cut a trace. So we're going to cut a trace underneath here, and I'll show you how this works. So we'll take all these off like so. And now I'm going to remove the circuit board. I now have the screws on my board here. We're going to lift it off here so you can kind of see how that looks. So there's our harness, our jacks. And here's our circuit board removed from the panel. So what you're going to want to do, I've actually already put a little X on it for you, so I can get this thing to focus in here. There we go. So what you'll actually want to do is, well, I keep losing focus here. You'll actually want to cut this trace going right here. So this trace right here, you want to cut it right there where the X is. And we're going to put a diode in there. And so the diode we're going to be putting in there is a 1N914. And I'll show you how this goes. So you actually want to put the cathode away from the connector here. This is the connector that your actual gate jack goes to. So you want the anode going toward the jack, the cathode going toward the circuitry. And I'll show you how this looks when I'm done. So as you can see, I've now got this diode installed. I cut the trace, got this diode installed, and this actually gives you your keyed auto trigger, which is a really nice feature. Now another option of this design is you can actually put a toggle switch between the sides of this diode and drill a hole in the front and actually make it normal, so it'd actually be just auto trigger, and it would bypass the keyed auto trigger. So that would be an option as well if you desired. And basically all you'd be doing is putting a toggle between it, so when you flip the toggle on, it'd be just bypassing this diode. It's really all we'd be doing. But what this is doing exactly, I'll explain what this is doing in the circuit. So your LFO is running, the cathode is facing the LFO circuitry, so it's going to block the positive trigger off that. And so when you have a gate over here, which turns on, it'll actually turn this diode on, and it'll allow it to start backfeeding through the diode. That's how this works. So it's a pretty simple circuit. But this one part makes a world of difference of how this thing operates. So I just want to show you that real quick. Now I'm going to be showing you how to actually wire this thing up if you want to use a normalization panel. Now this is not necessary. If this is all you was after, then you can stop watching now. But if you have a normalization panel you want to wire this into, keep watching. I'm going to be showing how to do that. So as mentioned earlier, this gets a little bit more complicated when you want to actually install the normalization module to this. But I'm going to show you the best way I've found to do this. So what we've got is we've got the original internal external switch here, and it's actually a two-position switch that actually .com puts in this thing, which is really helpful, because what we do, we actually use one of the positions that's unused here, and we use it for making and breaking part of our circuitry with our normalization. So what you would do is you'd install your make and break jack from your normalization panel. You desolder the wire that goes to the actual breaking side of this jack. So it would actually be like the reed that's in there, not the tip connection, but the actual reed. So you take that wire off. Now in later ones it's a red wire. In mine it's early, so it's still a black wire. And I tie it to the unused side of the switch. I'll tie it to the center post of the switch here, and then I'll run a wire back to my actual jack. And what that does is that allows that when you're in the internal mode, it actually breaks the connection between the normalization panel and the LFO. And then when you go to external, of course, it works just like it did before. So it's going to actually connect that. But what we also have to do, in order to keep this thing from just sitting there auto triggering or actually still have control over it, I install another toggle switch. And what this is actually doing is it's actually working as the keyed auto trigger on or off, and that way it just runs off the external without any kind of feedback to our envelope generators. So this is actually the switch that would engage it, so to speak. And what it does, it's very easy. It just parallels across the switch that we just put these wires here. And so it's actually just making that switch connection from another switch, basically, is how that works. So it's pretty simple, but it's just complicated when you look at all the wiring. It looks more complicated than what it is. But once again, make and break jack, you take the wire off the reed connection or the breaking side, you put it onto the center position of the switch, run a wire back to your jack, and then that way when you're in the internal mode, the switch is actually open across this contact set. And as you can see, the contacts are on the opposite side here for the actual switch for the internal-external mode. So what happens is when you're on the external, it breaks this side, makes this side. So it connects this side and breaks this connection here, makes it open. So that's how that works. So anyways, I hope that helps you out. As far as the circuit board though, nothing changes between what we did earlier to what we did now. So we've still got that diode in there. Now if you wanted to make it have a auto trigger without keying mode, you'd have to put another toggle in here, and you'd put that one across the diode. So you'd actually just bypass that diode if you wanted one that had basically a latched version of the trigger from the LFO. But anyways, just going to show you how that works there. So that's the interconnection and the harness there that you have to add to make all that work. I now have my module reinstalled in my system here, and once again I'm using a normalization panel with it, so I don't have to necessarily plug into the gate side of this to get a signal from it. And right now it's going to work like normal. I'm on the internal mode. My new keyed auto trigger switch is down, and as you can hear, it plays just like normal. We'll flip the new toggle switch I added, and you'll hear it doesn't do anything until I hit a key. So you hear that keyed auto trigger. Another term for that would be unlatched. So it's not a latched trigger. Turn that back off, goes away. At the same time, the external, we switch to external. I don't have to plug in here now, and you can see I actually get we'll bring up our sample and hold on the filter here. So you can hear And then we can also still run the, if you have the switch up, when you're in the external, it won't affect nothing. As you can see, it's going to work just like it did normally. When we go here, flip that up. Now it's re-triggering. So anyways, you can just kind of see how that works. Just want to give you a quick demo of that real quick. And once again, if you wanted to, you could add a secondary toggle, and you can actually make this thing basically a latched auto trigger instead of the keyed auto trigger, like what we have built here with the diode. But anyways, hope this helped you guys out that have this module and want a little bit more options out of it. And thanks very much for watching.